Hi, I'm Karen Tax, and welcome to my video podcast, The New Universe of Business, where we explore the emerging and practical realities that are possible at work when we boldly combine meaning and money. Topics include power and leadership, identity, branding and culture, conflict and communication, fast goals and agile implementation, and balancing strategy and tactics, all in ways that grow us toward new levels of human potential and collective intelligence. In this video, I'm sharing a map of the territory to show where we've been and where we're headed, to guide us as leaders, creating new ways of working and living where everyone can be their best. We are in challenging times where more heroic effort, more money and time are not predictably solving the problems we face. These are also exciting times as things we thought of as not possible, like remote work for many people, are seeming more and more doable. If you are willing to have confidence in what you know works and be radically honest about what's not working with yourself and people around you, and to turn forward toward those more meaningful things you really want to have happen in your life and at work, both, you're going to discover that people and circumstances are more ready than ever for new stories to become reality, where we shift from working harder and harder, where it never feels like we're doing enough, to working smarter, to working lighter, into a whole new universe that is becoming reality now. I've been a part of these shifts for over 30 years now. Whew. And in the beginning, it was really hard. I was addicted to hard work and overload for most of my career. And over time, it's gotten a lot easier. And I know it can for you too. I'm passionate about showing people where the biggest challenges they've faced have come from and how to use those challenges to open into lighter, more enjoyable, and more effective work experiences. Here's the map I created to show where we've been and where we're headed. I wanted to tackle the biggest challenges I see us facing and lay out on one page the best and the worst of what I see us doing. There's a lot of information here, so please pause the video if you'd like to take it in and make a note of questions you have about what's here. Now, I'm going to break down the information in this graphic into themes we've been influenced by, and in turn, lay out paths and choices available to us now to make work both meaningful and profitable in healthy ways for everyone involved. Game A and Game B is terminology used by a group of people out of the UK called Rebel Wisdom. Game A generally describes stories of control and separation, and Game B describes creative and newly emerging stories. In Game A, the control story is about the Industrial Revolution and the emergence of technology, characterized by mechanistic thinking and the deconstruction of life, which allowed us to make tremendous progress in many areas of life, like manufacturing, law, healthcare, civil liberties, and so on, and so much more, right? And I love the example of traffic laws. They work really well to enable flow. In Game A, the separation story is about where this technology has taken us to unprecedented progress in the developed world, at least, in education, energy, food supplies, personal development, global diplomacy, healthy competition, and things like that. So in game A, we focus on results, production, metrics, things that are tangible and that make some people successful. It's also important to know that each story here has a shadow side. And the shadow side of the control story is domination of vulnerable people and the planet, using force and war to resolve conflict, and abusing power, where some people have more power than others. Many rules are unspoken, usually by those with more power, or at least perceived power. And it's easy to forget that not everyone has the same access to information and resources. The shadow side of the separation story is us versus them thinking, where we blame the other. And there are win-lose dynamics where losers have little say. Some people call this compromise, where people in a minority group, and this can include anyone, have to go along with things that go against their values. Another shadow aspect of separation is scarcity thinking, where there is never enough time, money, energy, water, because our focus is mostly on the physical world, where there are very real limitations. And as a result, it feels like I'm never doing enough, perfect enough, safe enough, good enough, certain enough, relevant enough. Because we're so focused on results and productivity in game A, where what I do is never enough, we aren't able to fully relax, like relax in the sunshine and feel fulfilled. And we tend to devalue intangible things like beauty, enjoyment, pleasure, and meaning, and the very things that fuel human creativity and healthy growth. These shadow aspects have created imbalances of all kinds, including inequity in standards of living and harm to the ecology of the planet. And they've created pain for all people at some level. These shadow aspects cannot be solved by control and separation stories, because we're just thinking the same way from there, right? And because we think that game A is all there is, it can feel like there is no way out of these situations. The shadow aspects have led to unprecedented levels of loneliness and feelings of isolation. The shadow aspects of life begin to feel inevitable, like it's normal to feel depressed. And this is where game B becomes really important and exciting. In game B and the creative story, we emerge from the extreme mental and physical focus of game A into remembering the holistic aspects of life. We're not just a mind and body, we're also our emotions and perceptions, connected to each other and the natural world. So teamwork and collaboration allow for greater success than we can get from only competing and individual heroic efforts. And so here, the quality of our experiences matter, not just the results. In the creative story, we're motivated to include the best from game A and transcend its limiting shadow aspects. In game B, exciting new stories are emerging that can only happen when the best of game A and personally powerful individuals connect and come together for the purpose of consciously evolving together at the edge of what's known. I like to use my garden as an example of how new stories can play out. I am motivated by beauty and pleasure that I get from both the process and the results of gardening. My husband and I both work hard, and we do it in a smart way so that it feels easy. And we work light because we know that without so many other supporting resources and energy, besides just us, right? Like sun and water and soil and whatever else is going on out there, right? Nothing would be happening. Like the seed knows what to do to turn into a plant. Our neighbors admire what we've created, which is lovely. And our enjoyment is the best ROI. In Game A, we live in the context of how Game A has always been played, defined and confined in some ways by Game A. In Game B, we create the game. We change the game by coming together and choosing the world we want to create. What's wonderful about our current time in history is that we can be aware of where we've been and see the patterns that have emerged over time. I have a BS in computer science, and I geek out over seeing patterns in data and systems thinking. So I love to see how we've evolved over time from less complexity to more complexity. A series of creative unions from simple organisms to more complex and conscious beings. From subatomic particles to atoms to molecules to cells to organisms, patterns repeat that we can project into the future. Given the mechanistic nature of Game A, its dynamics and patterns can and have been mapped out in artificial intelligence software to play out what's happened when an algorithm is optimized to maximize production. The paperclip maximizer thought experiment is where this has been done, and you can look up more information about it online. And from this experiment, we can see that if we only focus on optimizing production without factoring in what are called terminal values, such as life, love, and variety, right? So Game A then self-terminates. In other words, if we continue to base how our society functions in Game A, we will self-destruct. The good news is that we can see how Game A has an evolution beyond what came before it, right? There was something before and then it happened, and we can see its limitations in its shadow aspects. Unless things have gotten extreme, and sometimes they do, we don't need to make anyone bad or wrong for living shadow aspects. It's not really useful. It is useful to hold each other accountable for being our best, to see how we're evolving and make choices about how we want to evolve. We've already begun to evolve into Game B. We can see patterns repeating in themes, and we can see what opportunities lie ahead, which is what I'll dive into next. With control stories, mechanistic thinking and intelligence, like the rigor and discipline of the scientific method, has allowed us to create beautiful things, like finely tuned combustion engines that perform with precision, and skyscrapers, and medical miracles, and space travel, and so much more, right? So many good things have come out of this. That same deconstruction and reassembly thinking has led us to looking at people and countries and nature as separate from us, as something to use in processes of production. sometimes if the separate thing doesn't act like we expect or causes problems, we think of it as an enemy to be subdued or brought into line, to be controlled, right? So boundaries and control are how we feel safe in this territory. In the creative story, we realize that our intelligences extend beyond the mind and body, and we move from impersonal and transactional ways of relating into claiming what I think of as the heart and soul of being together, right? The life force that's behind more intelligence. And we create alignment and coherence between our personal energies and the energy of life. The new frontier of intelligence is collective, where we consciously choose to unite and evolve together for the good of everyone and everything. And this doesn't mean that we abdicate what we learned in the separation story, right? We still have our individual uniqueness while we move into an intelligence that is mutual between and beyond us and is available to support and guide us. Okay, so uniqueness and unity. And this is happening now, most easily within groups of people with a common purpose, like businesses and organizations. This evolving intelligence can be seen as the shift from working hard to working smart to working light. I still work hard in the new story, but it feels completely different. Work here is an exchange of pleasure and enjoyment. Yeah, it feels good here. The next theme is power. In the control story, one person has power over another, like the husband in a traditional family, like a boss in command and control leadership, like a priest or minister or rabbi in a church or synagogue. There may be a sense of service to the group, and that's real. And there is clearly more power at the top of the organization. There's typically a pattern of more information and expertise and authority at the top. In my marriage, this showed up in what we called the power dynamic that took us years to step out of. It took both of us fully engaging and taking responsibility for being powerful, to disengage from unequal power dynamics. And the more of us that do this, the easier it'll get for everyone. Because unequal power in the control story has led to abuses of power, many people are wary of power. As Martin Luther King Jr. said, power without love is reckless and abusive, and love without power is sentimental and anemic. Power at its best is love implementing the demands of justice, and justice at its best is power correcting everything that stands against love. In the separation story, we can evolve to everyone having a strong sense of healthy personal power based in love. Access to basic needs, including education, healthcare, work opportunities, are critical to all people being powerful in reality. We create systems of domination when we come from powerlessness. And this is why learning to be powerful in the separation story is so important. As we move into the creative story, our personal power bubbles over into synergistic ways of being together and collaborative ways of getting things done, especially when we use technologies that allow transparent ways of sharing information and access to resources. The new frontier of power includes being in the flow of life and creation, where the power of all forms of life, including nature, become a part of our creative synergies. So my being powerful brings out your being powerful, and vice versa. The evolution in power eliminates abuses in power because they're not tolerated by people with healthy boundaries and a sense of personal power. We come to a place where our interactions are generative and our individual and collective potential is unleashed. The final theme is money. And when we look at how evolutionary patterns combine and are emerging, we can see opportunities for more sustainable, just, and generous ways of working when we transcend the limitations of control and separation stories. In control stories, our tendency to move into power over and battle interactions when things get fearful, like how we move into adrenaline and fight or flight responses during stress, reinforces win-lose dynamics and continued imbalances in power between each other, between us and the planet, and, in other places too. And in our fear and pain, we create more fear and pain, and the patterns continue. Scarcity thinking that is built into our financial systems has caused a situation where there is more debt than money in circulation. There's more debt than money in circulation. It's really important to just think about that. That reality about money creates win-lose dynamics for the majority of people. So money is scarce when seen from the perspective of the physical world. So here, more money for you means less for me, and tension is inevitable between those who have more and those who have less. And the thing to remember is that our current scarcity-based money system is a human construct. We created it. We can recreate it or create something new and different. And I've seen some people posting about my graphic, the original one, saying, are you going to play game A or shift into game B? So I want to clarify here that either or thinking is an aspect of scarcity thinking, right? There's not enough, right, in physical reality and separation. So either I get what I want or you do. And here we go, just right off the bat, looking at all this material, dropping into the struggle of scarcity thinking, just from looking at this information. So remember, we are evolving from game A into game B, bringing lots of good stuff with us as we go. So either or thinking is just a part of that scarcity dynamic. And from the creative story, we can see the win-win dynamics that are possible and how the flow of life, when we are open and connected to it, has a way of naturally supporting us and creating balance when we get out of the way and let life do what it knows to do. And by life, I mean life force energy, the seasons, the way things naturally play out without human interference. When we include the whole of our intelligences, not just the physical realities that we can see and touch, and we experience the abundance of life and know that there can be enough for all. When we respect the physical limitations of life on planet Earth, beyond what we can think and touch and see are infinite resources of energy and life and time. Infinite time, right? And we can bend and expand time, by the way. Now we can know there is enough energy and space in the world for all of us to be brilliant. We are an inextricable part of life. We inherently belong. It is impossible for us to be separate from life because we are life. The most meaningful work we can do then is to fully give our talents, aligned with our values, contributing to the creative work of evolution. Meaningful work is how we grow a business or organization beyond the limitations of Game A. Remember that in Game A, we have a singular focus on results, production, metrics, things that are tangible and that make some people successful. Including what's best about Game A and evolving into Game B with meaningful work is how all people can be successful. Evolving how we think about money and our money systems is a critical part of this process. We can individually start now by experiencing how money exists in Game B. Here, money is energy, a loving presence, which is generously a part of everyone's life. Our opportunity is to engage with work and life, each and every one of us, in balanced ways, creating a new economy based in a spirit of generosity as we go. We change the game as we create every day. The greatest crisis of our time is people thinking that they don't matter. And I'm here telling you that you do. My coaching and consulting work guides individuals, groups, and organizations into Game B experiences, leveraging the best of Game A in the process. I call this territory the new universe of business. So welcome to my video podcast where we explore what this looks like. If you have any questions, please post them below.